My brother was standing at the altar, grinning like the golden boy he always was, when my mother leaned over during the ceremony and whispered, "The account transfer goes through the second the reception starts. Don't make a scene, Vivian. Not today." I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just adjusted the corsage on my wrist and smiled at the photographer, because the 57 hidden microphones I had sewn into the reception hall's table linens were already recording, and in exactly 4 hours, every person in my family who had spent the last decade stealing from me was going to learn what it feels like when the ground disappears beneath your feet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. 3 weeks before my brother's wedding, I was sitting in my office, on the 14th floor of a glass tower in Arlington, Virginia, staring at a line of code that didn't belong. I'm a cybersecurity analyst for a defense contractor. My job is to find the things people hide inside systems, the little backdoors and phantom accounts and ghost transactions that someone hoped nobody would ever notice. I'm good at it. I'm good at it because I grew up in a house where nothing was ever what it seemed, where every smile had a price tag and every hug came with an invoice. My phone buzzed. The screen read, "Mother." I hadn't spoken to her in 4 months, not since Thanksgiving, when she cornered me in the kitchen and told me I was being selfish for refusing to add my brother Derek to the trust account my grandmother had left me. The trust held $2.6 million. It was earmarked for a scholarship foundation I was building in my grandmother's name, a woman who had scrubbed hotel floors for 40 years so her granddaughter could go to college. My mother saw it as the family piggy bank. I picked up. "What is it, Mom?" "Vivian, sweetheart." Her voice was warm, honeyed, the voice she used when she wanted something expensive. "I know we haven't talked in a while, and I'm sorry about that, but Derek's getting married, 3 weeks from Saturday, at the Hargrove Estate in Maryland. It's going to be beautiful." "I heard," I said. "I had received the invitation 2 months ago. I hadn't RSVP'd. He wants you there, Viv. He specifically asked for you. You're his sister. You're supposed to be in the wedding party." She paused, and I could hear her choosing her next words like a jeweler selecting stones. And Daddy and I were thinking, since the whole family will be together for the first time in years, maybe we could finally sit down and discuss Grandma Pauline's estate. Just a conversation, nothing formal. There it was, the hook inside the bait. "Mom, the trust is not up for discussion. It's a foundation. It has bylaws." "Oh, honey, I know. I just meant there are some documents Daddy found in the attic. Some old papers of Grandma's. We think there might be another account we didn't know about. We just need you to log in and verify. You're the only trustee. 5 minutes. That's all." I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. She was lying. I had audited every cent my grandmother ever earned. There were no hidden accounts. There were no mystery documents. What there was, I suspected, was a plan. The same kind of plan they had been running on me since I was old enough to sign my name. "I'll think about it," I said. "Think fast, sweetheart. The dress fitting is next Tuesday." She hung up. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Then I opened a new browser tab and started searching for the Hargrove Estate's floor plan. The next morning, I called Nadia. Nadia Osei was my best friend from college and also happened to be one of the sharpest attorneys in D.C. She specialized in white-collar crime. She had put a sitting congressman's chief of staff in federal prison for embezzlement 2 years ago. She was 5'2", wore reading glasses that made her look like a librarian, and she could dismantle a fraudulent scheme the way a surgeon removes a tumor. "They're going to try something at the wedding," I told her over coffee at a cafe near DuPont Circle. Nadia stirred her latte without looking up. "Of course they are. What's the play?" "Mom wants me to log into the trust account. She says there are old documents they need me to verify. It's a setup. They want access to the $2 and $6 million. And you know this because? Because I've been running background checks on Derek's fiancée, Megan. She's lovely. She's also $340,000 in debt from a failed restaurant in Annapolis. Derek co-signed the lease. My parents guaranteed the loan. The creditors filed a lien against my parents' house in Bethesda 6 weeks ago. They're about to lose everything." Nadia took off her glasses and cleaned them slowly. "So the wedding isn't just a wedding. It's a heist. They're going to use the family gathering as cover. Get me emotional, get me surrounded, get me to log in, and then either watch over my shoulder for the credentials or convince me to authorize a transfer on the spot. You could just not go. If I don't go, they'll keep coming. They showed up at my office last year, remember?" My mother walked into my lobby and told the receptionist she was concerned about my mental health. They called my landlord and told him I was suicidal to try to get a key to my apartment. If I block one avenue, They open another. I need to end this permanently. Nadia put her glasses back on. A slow, careful smile spread across her face. What did you have in mind? I want to give them exactly what they think they want. I want to let them try. Wire fraud, unauthorized computer access, and if they use any kind of forged credentials, identity theft, all federal. She tapped her fingernail against the coffee cup. You'd need everything documented. Video, audio, digital logs. I know, I said. That's why I need your help building the box they're going to walk into. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing. I built a replica of the trust's banking portal, pixel by pixel. It was my specialty, after all. At work, I found vulnerabilities in military-grade systems. Building a mirror of a civilian banking interface was like solving a crossword puzzle in crayon. The site looked identical to the real one. Same fonts, same logos, same two-factor authentication prompt. But every keystroke, every click, every failed password attempt would be logged, timestamped, IP tagged, and automatically forwarded to a secure server that Nadia's paralegal was monitoring in real time. The fake dashboard would show a balance of $2.6 million. If anyone attempted a transfer, the system would display a realistic processing animation for exactly 11 seconds before triggering a silent alert to the FBI's cybercrimes field office in Baltimore. I had made the call myself. Agent Reeves, a woman with a voice like gravel and a 0% tolerance for financial fraud, had listened to my story, reviewed the evidence of my family's previous attempts, and agreed to have a team on standby within a 15-minute radius of the venue. As I was testing the final version of the mirror site, my hand froze on the keyboard, the blue glow of the screen shifted, and suddenly I was 16 again, standing in the kitchen of our house in Bethesda, holding a report card with a 4 gigapascals. I had worked all semester for those grades. I had stayed up until 2 in the morning every night, studying in the bathroom because Derek played music until midnight and my parents refused to tell him to stop. I walked into the living room to show my mother. She was on the phone. She held up one finger without looking at me. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. When she finally hung up, I handed her the report card. She glanced at it, nodded, and set it on the coffee table. That's nice, Viv. Listen, Derek needs a new suit for the spring formal. Can you lend me your birthday money? Grandma Pauline sent you $500, right? I'll pay you back. She never paid me back. She never paid me back for anything. The birthday money, the savings bonds, the $4,000 I earned working at a pharmacy the summer before college that vanished from my bedroom drawer while I was at orientation. When I confronted her, she told me I must have miscounted. When I pushed harder, she cried and said I was accusing my own mother of being a thief. But the worst was the scholarship. I had earned a full ride to Georgetown. 4 years, tuition and housing, everything. The letter came on a Tuesday in April. I screamed so loud the neighbors called. It was the happiest moment of my life. 3 weeks later, my mother called the admissions office and told them I had a drug problem. She said I had been arrested for possession, which was a lie. She said I was unstable and needed to defer, which was a lie. She gave them enough false detail that they flagged my file for review. By the time I found out what she had done, the committee had rescinded the offer and given the scholarship to the waitlist candidate. Her reason? Derek had been rejected from the same university. She said it would destroy him to watch his little sister attend the school that didn't want him. She said it was better for the family if neither of us went. I ended up at a state school on partial financial aid, working 2 jobs. Derek went to a party college on my parents' dime and dropped out after 3 semesters. Nobody ever apologized. Nobody ever acknowledged what she did. When I brought it up years later at Christmas, my father told me to stop living in the past. I blinked. The memory dissolved. The mirror site blinked back at me from the monitor. I saved the final build and closed the laptop. They had stolen my future once. They were not going to steal it again. The Hargrove estate sat on 12 acres of rolling Maryland countryside. All white fences and stone walls and ancient oak trees draped with Spanish moss. The wedding was at 4. By 3:30, the parking lot was full of BMWs and Lexuses, most of them leased, all of them polished to a shine that suggested money nobody actually had. I arrived in a rented black sedan, wearing a navy blue dress that was elegant enough for a wedding and professional enough for what was about to happen. My laptop was in a leather tote bag slung over my shoulder. I had tested the mirror site one final time in the hotel that morning. Everything was live. Nadia was parked in a gray Honda Civic 2 blocks from the estate, her laptop open, monitoring the secure server. Agent Reeves and her team were staged at a gas station 4 miles down the road. The ceremony was beautiful, if you could ignore the subtext. Derek looked genuinely happy. Megan looked radiant. My parents sat in the front row, my mother in a cream-colored dress that I knew she couldn't afford, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. My father sat rigid, his jaw clenched, his eyes occasionally darting to me in the third row. It was during the vows that my mother leaned over. The account transfer goes through the second the reception starts. Don't make a scene, Vivian. Not today. I don't know what you're talking about, I whispered back. Don't play dumb. You brought the laptop. Your father saw the bag. We're doing this in the bridal suite during cocktail hour. 20 minutes, in and out. Nobody has to know. I looked at her. Her eyes were bright and hard, like polished stones. There was no love in them. There was only calculation. Fine, I whispered, but only if Derek asks me himself. She smiled. It was the smile of a woman who believed she had already won. The reception was held in a converted barn, with exposed beams and hanging Edison bulbs. 200 guests milled around with champagne flutes, while a jazz trio played something smooth and forgettable. I made small talk with cousins I hadn't seen in years, accepted compliments on my dress, and watched the clock. At 5:47, Derek appeared at my elbow. He was still in his tuxedo, his bow tie loosened, his cheeks flushed from champagne. He looked like a kid who had been coached to ask for something. Viv, can we talk? Upstairs? Of course, I said. Lead the way. He led me through the back hall, up a narrow staircase, to a suite on the second floor that had been designated as the bridal preparation room. The door was already open. My mother was sitting on the edge of the bed, her legs crossed, her cream dress fanning out like a lily pad. My father was standing by the window, his arms folded, his face a mask of practiced patience. Megan was not there. This was family only. The room smelled like gardenias and hairspray. A full-length mirror on the wall reflected all four of us. And for a moment, I saw what a stranger would see. An attractive family gathered in a beautiful room. The portrait hid the rot perfectly. Close the door, my father said. Derek closed it. I heard the soft click of the latch and felt a familiar tightness in my chest. But this time, the tightness wasn't fear. It was anticipation. Sit down, Viv, my mother said, patting the bed beside her. I remained standing. Say what you need to say. My father unfolded his arms. Your brother is in trouble. I'm aware. You're aware? He stepped forward. Then you know about the liens, the creditors, the fact that in 6 weeks, your mother and I will be living in a motel off Route 270 because your brother's wife ran a restaurant into the ground and we were stupid enough to back the loan. That sounds like a problem you created, I said. It's a family problem, my mother cut in, her voice sharpening. And family solves problems together. Like you solved my scholarship problem? Together? Silence. My father's jaw tightened. My mother looked away. Derek stared at the floor. That was a long time ago, my father said quietly. The debt isn't, I replied. How much? Derek swallowed hard. Total? With the interest and the penalties? 2.4 million. The lien holder gave us until the end of the month. After that, they take the house. They take everything. And you want me to transfer $2.4 million from Grandma Pauline's trust. It's family money, my mother said. Pauline would have wanted us to use it. Pauline wanted it to fund scholarships for first-generation college students. Women like her. Women like me. My father slammed his palm against the windowsill. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Enough with the foundation. Enough with the bylaws. Your brother is about to lose his house on his wedding day. His wife doesn't even know. Are you going to sit there and let this family collapse over some charity? I looked at each of them. My mother's pleading eyes. My father's fury. Derek's shame. They were a machine, and each of them had a role. The guilt trip. The intimidation. The sympathy play. I had seen this show 100 times. But tonight, I was the one directing it. I sighed. A long, heavy, defeated sigh. I let my shoulders drop. I pressed my fingers against my temples the way I used to when I was 19, and they were screaming at me about something that was never my fault. If I do this, I whispered, you leave me alone. Forever. No more calls. No more showing up at my office. No more lies. Done, my father said immediately. You promise? On my mother's grave, he said, which was ironic, considering we were about to defile her legacy. I pulled the laptop from my bag and set it on the vanity table. I opened the lid. The screen glowed. I navigated to the bookmarked page labeled Pauline Trust, Secure Portal. My mother moved closer. My father stood behind me. Derek hovered at my left. I could feel their breath on my neck. I typed the login credentials slowly, deliberately, making sure each of them could see every character. The fake dashboard loaded. The balance field populated. $2,618,440. My mother made a sound. A small, involuntary gasp. The sound of a woman staring at a pile of money she believed was about to be hers. My father gripped the back of my chair. Derek was already leaning over my shoulder, his phone out, a routing number scrawled on a napkin in his pocket. "Transfer to this account," he said, pressing the napkin into my hand. I looked at the routing number. It was a domestic wire to a shell company in Delaware. They had set up a holding entity. They had planned this. "All of it?" I asked, my voice cracking perfectly. "All of it," my father confirmed. "Now." My hands trembled over the keyboard. I entered the routing number. I entered the amount. The confirmation screen appeared. Authorized transfer of $2,618,440. I pulled my hands back. I can't. If the IRS audits this, I'll go to prison. This is foundation money. I'm the fiduciary. They'll charge me with breach of... Press the button, Vivian. My father's voice was low, dangerous, final. He placed both hands on my shoulders and squeezed. Not comforting, controlling. Press it, or I swear to God you will never see a penny of that woman's money anyway. We'll get a lawyer. We'll contest the trust. We'll drag you through court until you're bankrupt. Daddy, please. Do it, my mother snapped. The mask was gone. The gardenia sweetness evaporated. She was baring her teeth. You owe this family. Everything you have is because of us. We fed you. We clothed you. We put a roof over your ungrateful head. The least you can do is press one button. Derek said nothing. He just watched. The golden boy, silent as always, letting everyone else do the dirty work while he collected the reward. I let a tear roll down my cheek. One single, perfect tear. Then I moved my hand toward the trackpad. "I'm sorry, Grandma," I whispered. I clicked authorize. The screen didn't show a confirmation. Instead, it went white for 2 seconds, then red. Bright, arterial red. Text appeared in bold black letters. Security breach detected. Unauthorized access logged. Biometric data captured. All session data forwarded to federal authorities. Do not close this window. The webcam light turned on. A small green dot, steady and unblinking, staring at them like the eye of God. My mother screamed. Not a dramatic scream, a real one. The kind that comes from the stomach when you realize the floor has opened beneath you and there is nothing to grab. "What is this?" my father shouted, reaching for the laptop. "What did you do?" I stood up, slowly. I smoothed my dress. I picked up my tote bag. And when I turned around, I wasn't the weeping little sister anymore. I was the woman who spent 8 hours a day hunting people exactly like them. "There is no money in that account," I said. My voice was flat, calm, clinical. "I transferred the funds to the Foundation's permanent endowment 6 months ago. The account you just tried to access is a decoy, a mirror. Every keystroke you entered, every word you spoke, every biometric frame from the webcam has been logged and forwarded to the FBI's Cybercrimes Division." Derek dropped his phone. It hit the hardwood floor with a crack. "You're lying," my mother said, but her voice was shaking. "I'm a cybersecurity analyst, Mom. Lying is your specialty. Mine is catching people who think they can't be caught." "This is entrapment," my father snarled, his face purple. "No court will. Entrapment requires a law enforcement officer inducing you to commit a crime you wouldn't otherwise commit. I'm not law enforcement. I'm your daughter. And I didn't make you do anything. You planned this. You set up a shell company in Delaware. You brought a routing number to your son's wedding. You cornered me in a locked room and threatened me. All I did was give you a screen and let you be exactly who you are." The distant sound of sirens cut through the summer air. Through the window, I could see blue and red lights flickering through the tree line at the edge of the property. Agent Reeves was early. "You need to call this off," Derek said, his voice cracking for the first time. "Viv, please, it's my wedding day. Megan is downstairs. Her parents are here. You can't do this. You did this, Derek. You planned a robbery on your wedding day. You used your own ceremony as cover. You brought me here to steal from a dead woman's legacy. What did you think was going to happen?" He stared at me. For the first time in my life, my brother had nothing to say. The door opened. 2 FBI agents in dark suits stepped into the room, badges displayed. Behind them, a uniformed officer. Agent Reeves stood in the hallway, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. "Vivian Chen?" she asked. That's me. We've reviewed the live feed. We have everything we need. She looked past me at my parents. Richard Chen, Linda Chen, Derek Chen. You're being detained for questioning regarding attempted wire fraud, attempted unauthorized access to a federally registered trust, and conspiracy. Please step into the hallway. My mother tried to push past the agents. This is absurd. She set us up. She invited us to do this. Ma'am, Agent Reeves said, unmoved. You were recorded on 4 separate audio channels and 1 video feed stating your intent to transfer funds from an account you are not authorized to access. You brought a routing number for a shell entity registered 3 weeks ago. The evidence is not ambiguous. My father was cuffed first. He didn't resist. He just looked at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not anger, not betrayal. Recognition. He finally saw me as someone who could beat him, and he didn't know what to do with that information. My mother fought. She twisted and cursed and called me things I won't repeat. The agent handling her was patient. He had dealt with worse. As they led her down the narrow staircase, she looked back over her shoulder and hissed, "You are no daughter of mine. You are dead. Do you hear me? Dead. You killed me when I was 16, Mom," I said. "I just finally stopped pretending to be alive for you." Derek was last. Megan appeared in the hallway just as they were leading him out. She was still in her wedding dress, white tulle and lace, a champagne glass in her hand. She looked at the handcuffs. She looked at Derek. She looked at me. "What is happening?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Megan," I said. "Truly. Ask him to tell you the truth. For once in his life." She didn't cry. She just stood there, the champagne glass tilting in her hand until it spilled onto the hardwood floor, a slow golden puddle spreading at her feet. I walked past her and down the stairs. Nadia was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her gray Civic. She handed me a bottle of water without a word. We stood there in the warm Maryland evening, watching the blue and red lights paint the white fences, while 200 wedding guests pressed their faces against the barn windows trying to understand why the groom was being led to a federal SUV. "You okay?" Nadia asked. "No," I said, "but I will be." The trial took 11 months. The prosecution was methodical and devastating. The mirror site logs showed that Derek had entered the shell company routing number within 90 seconds of the dashboard loading, proving premeditation. The audio recordings captured my father's threats and my mother's coercion in high definition. The Delaware shell entity paper trail led back to a financial advisor my parents had hired 6 weeks before the wedding, specifically to help them access the trust. My father pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and received 18 months in federal prison. My mother, who refused to plead and insisted on trial, was convicted of the same charge plus attempted coercion. She received 26 months. Derek pleaded guilty to a reduced charge and received 14 months plus 3 years of supervised probation. Megan filed for annulment before the verdict. It was granted. The judge, a silver-haired woman named Honorable Patricia Webb, read her sentencing statement in a voice that never wavered. The defendants did not merely attempt to steal money. They attempted to weaponize family obligation as a tool of financial predation. The victim in this case was targeted precisely because she was family, precisely because they believed her love would make her compliant. The court finds this particularly egregious. I sat in the gallery and listened. I didn't cry. Nadia sat beside me, her hand on my knee. When it was over, we walked out of the courthouse into the November rain. "What now?" she asked. "Now I build what Grandma Pauline wanted me to build." 8 months later, the Pauline Chen Scholarship Foundation awarded its first 4 grants to first-generation college women in Virginia. I read the acceptance letters at my kitchen table in Arlington, the November light slanting through the windows, and I cried for the first time in 2 years. My apartment was quiet. It had always been quiet, but the silence used to feel like absence. Now it felt like safety. I had repainted the walls, hung new curtains, put a photograph of Grandma Pauline on the bookshelf, the one where she was standing outside the hotel she cleaned for 30 years, squinting into the sun, smiling like she had just gotten away with something wonderful. A letter arrived from my father last Tuesday. Federal prison return address, careful handwriting, my full name spelled out with no abbreviation. I held it over the kitchen trash can for a long time. Then I dropped it in, unopened, and put the kettle on. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in the dark and think about the girl who lost her scholarship because her mother made a phone call. I think about the teenager who spent every birthday wondering why her money disappeared. I think about the woman who stood in a bridal suite and let her family believe they had broken her, just so she could show them what it looks like when someone refuses to break. Family is supposed to be the people who catch you when you fall. Mine were the people who pushed me and then charged me for the bandages. I don't hate them. Hate requires energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. But I don't miss them either. I miss the family I wished they were. I miss the parents who existed in the version of my childhood I used to tell myself before I was old enough to know it was fiction. The scholarship recipients sent me thank you letters. One of them, a girl named Amara from Richmond, wrote something that I taped to my refrigerator. She wrote, "Thank you for believing I deserved a chance. Nobody ever has before." I read it every morning with my coffee, and every morning I think of Grandma Pauline, squinting into the sun, and I think maybe, just maybe, she's still getting away with something wonderful.